Surah 89. Al-Fajr. Context. Period of revelation. Its contents show that it was revealed in Mecca, at the stage when persecution of the new reverts to Islam had begun. On that very basis, the people of Mecca have been reminded of the evil end of Pharaoh and the tribes of Ad and Thamud. The theme and subject matter. Its theme is to affirm the meting out of rewards and punishments in the hereafter, which the people of Mecca were not prepared to acknowledge. Let us consider the reasoning in the order in which it has been presented. First of all, the swearing of oaths by the dawn, the 10 nights, the even and the odd, and the departing night. The listeners have been asked,
"Are these things not enough to testify to the truth of that which you are refusing to acknowledge?"
From the explanation that follows, it will become clear that these things are symbols of the regularity that exists in the night and day. Even after witnessing this wise system established by God, do you still need any other proof, to prove that it is not beyond the power of God to call man to account for his deeds? Then, the evil end of the Ad, and the Thamud, and Pharaoh has been cited as an example, to show that when they transgressed all limits and spread corruption in the earth, God laid upon them his punishment. This is a proof of the fact that the system of the universe is not being run by deaf and blind forces, nor is the world a lawless kingdom of a corrupt ruler, but a wise ruler is ruling over it. After this, an appraisal has been made of the general moral state of human society, of which Arab paganism was a conspicuous example. Two aspects of it in particular have been criticized. First, the materialistic attitude of the people, on account of which, overlooking the moral good and evil, they regarded only the achievement of worldly wealth, rank and position,
or the absence of it,
as the criterion of honor or disgrace, and had forgotten that neither riches was a reward, nor poverty a punishment, but that God is trying man in both conditions. Second, the people's attitude, under which the orphan child in their society was left destitute on the death of the father. Nobody looked after the poor, whoever could, usurped the whole heritage left by the deceased parent, and drove away the weak heirs fraudulently. The people were so afflicted with an insatiable greed for wealth, that they were never satisfied however much they might hoard and amass. This criticism is meant to make them realize, as to why the people with such an attitude and conduct in the life of the world, should not be called to account for their misdeeds. The discourse has been concluded with the assertion that man will be accountable, and it will take place on the day when the divine court will be established. At that time, the deniers of the judgment will understand what they are not capable of understanding now, however, then it will be of no avail. The denier will regret and say,
"Would that I had prepared for this day while I lived in the world."
But his regrets will not save him from God's punishment. However, as for the people who would have accepted the truth, which the heavenly books and the prophets of God were presenting, with full satisfaction of the heart in the world, God will be pleased with them, and they will be well pleased with the rewards bestowed by God. They will be called upon to join the righteous and enter paradise. Surah 89. Al-Fajr. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. By the dawn and by 10 nights, and by the even number and the odd, and by the night when it passes, is there not in all that an oath sufficient for one of perception? Have you not considered how your Lord dealt with Ad, with Iram, who had lofty pillars, the likes of whom had never been created in the land? And with Thamud, who carved out the rocks in the valley? And with Pharaoh, owner of the stakes, all of whom oppressed within the lands, and increased therein, the corruption? So your Lord poured upon them a scourge of punishment. Indeed your Lord is in observation. And as for the human being, when his Lord tries him, and thus is generous to him, and favors him, he says, "My Lord has honored me," but when he tries him, and restricts his provision, he says, "My Lord has humiliated me." No. But you do not honor the orphan, and you do not encourage one another, to feed the poor. And you consume inheritance, devouring it altogether, and you love wealth, with immense love. No. When the earth has been leveled, pounded and crushed, and your Lord has come, and the angels rank upon rank, and brought within view, that day is hell. That day, the human being will remember. But how, what good, to him will be the remembrance? He will say, "Oh, I wish I had sent ahead some good for my life." So on that day, none will punish as severely as his punishment, and none will bind as severely as his binding of the evildoers. To the righteous, it will be said, "O reassured soul, return to your Lord, well pleased, and pleasing to him, and enter among my righteous servants, and enter my paradise."